happened was that the reconstructive surgeon came in and said that definitely he would need to do surgery, but I was too weak, so he would come back in 3 weeks. When he came back 3 weeks later, he said the wounds have started to heal all by themselves, I won't need surgery. Not only that, but about 9 days after my NDE, the doctors were actually waiting for me to get stronger so that they could continue to give me treatments and do tests, run tests like biopsies. So about 9 days after my NDE, they wanted to do a bone marrow biopsy. I kept telling them that you won't find any cancer. I know I'm healed. I know why I'm back now. And they said, that's fine. It's fine you think that way, but we need to do what we need to do. And they said, cancer doesn't just disappear like that. We just have to find it. And they did the bone marrow biopsy, and there was no trace of cancer. And they still said that, nope, the cancer doesn't disappear. Now we'll have to do a lymph node biopsy. And when they sent me to the radiologist office, for him to mark a lymph node using the ultrasound, he was really surprised because he said he couldn't even find a lymph node big enough to suggest cancer when the scans on his light box showed that just 3 weeks previously my entire neck was covered with tumors and enlarged lymph nodes. The oncologist, however, insisted that I still have a biopsy on any lymph node. And they confirmed that there was no trace of cancer. Finally, they did a full body PET scan. And although I was receiving treatments, they confirmed that they could cut the treatments short. And they sent me home from the hospital because it was confirmed there was no trace of cancer in my body. And finally, they sent me home after 5 weeks in the hospital because by that point I was strong enough to walk around and take care of myself and to go out. On the day they were releasing me to go home, I was actually ecstatic. I was thinking, I've been sick for so long. The first thing I wanted to do was to go shopping. And when the doctors were releasing me, the doctor actually said to me, oh, you must be so happy to go home. I said, yes, absolutely. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go shopping. And he said, no, you're absolutely not going to go shopping. You're still weak and there are people in the shops. You're going to go home and rest. And he actually wrote on my discharge slip, released to go home for further rest, no shopping. The interesting thing was that this was actually later picked up by another oncologist who studied my case much later when an oncologist flew to Hong Kong to study my medical records. He actually contacted me and he said, in your medical records, your oncologist has said no shopping. And I said, yeah, that's right. So the reason I'm here today, as I mentioned to you, is because the biggest thing I learned is that life is really a gift. And there's a reason why I'm here, and there's a reason why every single one of you are here. And I want to convey to you the value of your life and how important it is for you to be here right now. I don't stand here before you as some enlightened guru or enlightened master, because I'm certainly no more enlightened than anyone else that sits here in this room. It's just that something happened to me that taught me a few lessons. And these are lessons I wish I knew. I wish somebody told me. And that's why I want to share them with you. And I'm a simple person, so I like to keep my lessons really, really simple. So the first lesson and the most important lesson I learned about life, or what I learned that I believe saved my life, is that I learned that it is extremely important to love yourself. Very, very important. And I cannot stress this enough. And it was the love I felt coming for me that saved my life. I never knew before that, before my near-death experience, that I was supposed to love myself unconditionally. The love I felt in the other realm, it doesn't matter where or who it was coming from, because all of us have different philosophies of how we like to see life. I don't like to put labels on anything. So whether the love comes from Jesus or Allah or Krishna or Buddha, it doesn't matter. Whether it came from my father, it's all God. The love was still unconditional. And that love that I felt told me that I was deserving and I was worthy of being loved. And it made me realize that it's okay to love myself. Most of us don't know this while growing up. While we are children, we don't realize, or even as we grow up, when we're teenagers and in our 20s, we don't realize that it's okay to love ourselves. When we're born, we know it's okay to love ourselves. When we're born, we're happy little children. Look at babies. Babies are so full of themselves and they're so joyful. And then we spend a lifetime getting it conditioned out of us. And then halfway through our life, we then start reading self-help books and going to courses to bring it back into our lives, to find it again. So what I want to tell you is that really, if you loved yourself, so many of your problems and issues in life would actually be solved and healed. Now I want to just ask you, honestly speaking, before you embarked on a journey, on a self-searching journey or whatever journey, before you started reading books on spiritual things, say when you were much younger, were you ever taught that it's important to love yourself? I want a show of hands. How many of you were actually taught that it is important to love yourself? Okay, a few of you. But literally, I think I can count maybe 5 hands. Now here's what happens when you love yourself. When you love yourself and you fill yourself up, you have a lot more to give other people, because you cannot give people what you yourself don't have. When you give and give and give, but you're empty inside, and you just keep giving because maybe for some reason you've learned that it's selfish to love yourself, it's selfish to give yourself, and it's selfless to give. You've got to be loving, you've got to keep being generous with your love and doing for other people, and you keep doing and doing and doing, and then imagine that you become drained, which is very common, which is what I did. I became drained to the point I got cancer. Now imagine you start to become drained and tired of giving, and you realize that people aren't giving back to you. And now you feeling a little bit needy, like you need some support, but it's not coming back to you. What do you feel? You feel resentment towards the people you've been giving and giving who aren't giving back to you. And when you feel resentment for them, what happens is that it makes your love for them conditional. And that is the start of a dysfunctional relationship. And that's why we have so many relationships that are breaking down. Now, you imagine if you allow yourself to fulfill yourself, you allow yourself to love yourself enough that you allow yourself to find your joy. Now, people who love themselves, who allow themselves to find their joy and feel joyful about life, are the most fun and generous people to be around. And when you love yourself to the point where you are feeling fulfilled, self-actualized, then the love that comes from you is unconditional, because you don't need anything back from anybody. The love you give is pure and unconditional. And that is the most important lesson I learned. Because let me tell you a little bit about the person I used to be. I used to believe that it was selfish to love myself. I used to believe that I had to love other people more than I loved myself. And what that meant was that I gave and gave until I became so drained. It also meant that I was a people pleaser. I didn't want anybody to dislike me. I wanted to make sure that I was pleasing everybody and doing things for everybody and anybody except me. When I had cancer, for the first time, the cancer gave me permission to do stuff for myself. It gave me permission to receive. I want to give you all permission to receive. I want you to know that it's okay to receive. Don't wait until something happens. Thank you. And this is so important for you to know. We learn from the time we're very young that we need to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But then we don't learn to love ourselves. Maybe that's why everybody's so messed up.